right, let
it.
me go ahead and do introductions. Everybody, welcome to Trailer Punk Podcast. My name is Justin Hamlin, and today I have Veronica of Crimes I Didn't Commit from the state of Florida. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Do you want to talk about your new album, Made to Fade, just came out in November? Go ahead and let people know kind of what to expect, or just even any like some background on the writing and recording process, everything like that. Go ahead and dig deep into that album.
Yeah, sure. So, you already said the title and when it came out. So
Hmm.
those are the first two things I would have said to stall. So that's gone.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's called Made to Fade, and which the abbreviation of is MTF, which
yep,
is like male to female for like transitioning, which is kind of
perfect. I love that.
that's something I don't. I've had a couple people mention they noticed it, and I thought that was really cool. But yeah, no. So it's a record that I make. It's a solo project, and I make. The one of my least favorite questions is what genre? Like, what do you do? Because it's like just kind of a confining. Like, I don't think about that when I'm working on stuff. But the phrases that usually come up are darkwave and industrial and synthpop. And kind of a blend of those things. And it definitely fits in with that. I think this album has a bit more edge to it on the industrial side. It's got a lot of noise, it's got a lot of melody. I think it's I'm very proud of. I think it's a very eclectic record as far as there's a lot of different songs that cover a lot of different ground. There's like piano driven tracks and very synth heavy and very drum heavy and everywhere in between. I do screaming vocals, I do falsetto. It's like kind of a real like potpourri of what I like to do and what I think I've developed. But thematically, it deals predominantly with themes of isolation and regret and impermanence in your sense of self and identity, in relationships and friendships, in just kind of that feeling, realization that like everything is in this constant state of flux and like loss, and to love anybody, to have anybody, to know anybody is to lose them inevitably in some fashion, or for them to lose you, and including your sense of self. And I think it's, I hit my late 20s and made this record, and I think it really is that time period of life where you start to like really have enough experience as an adult to go like, oh wow, like there's so many different periods of my life just from the last 10 years that I feel like a different person moment to moment. And I feel like I can remember things, and I don't know, sometimes I'll hear people say like, oh, I think back to then and I feel just like I did back then still. I don't get that at all. Like I've never felt that way. I've always felt like different phases of my life, I feel like I'm remembering someone else's story, kind of. Like it's not always, I can't always relate to it in the same way, even though I might still have feelings, that resonate. Anyway, so the album deals a lot with those things. That was a very rambly answer, but I'll be giving a lot of those.
No, it's fine.
And then
Ramble on, always ramble on. It's fine.
yeah, and it also deals with being a trans woman in the state of Florida. There's a song on it called Enanthate, which is a form of estradiol, which is a hormone medication that you take when you're transitioning from male to female. And that song deals with like the various restrictions placed on HRT and that feeling of defiance that I've definitely gained as a queer person and a visibly trans artist, like in a place that is very inhospitable on a legal level. And in a country that's increasingly inhospitable towards that identity. And I think, I used to have a lot of really depressive and self-destructive feelings and impulses, and then the last few years, I've felt very galvanized and like not wanting to do the work that for the bigots themselves. Of later, like there's a lot of people out there that just like hope that that happens. Like they want you to be miserable, and it's that feeling of like, well, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I don't want to reward that. I don't want to just be a statistic. I don't want to just be an example of, people like that love to say, oh, anyone who's queer, anyone who's trans is really depressed, and it's like I don't want to. I don't think it has anything to do with it. But I don't want to feed into that. And it's that feeling of defiance that motivates you to maybe become your better self. And I feel like that's something that I've been very driven by. And I think that that's a big backdrop throughout the record is this like, I feel like a lot of past music I've put out lyrically, thematically, there's a lot of like just self-destructive feelings. And this album is the sound of somebody trying to navigate past that. And how do you even like, how do you reconcile the fact that you spent so many years trying to destroy yourself and now you're like, well, I'm still here and maybe I want to make something of myself now, like trying to forgive yourself, trying to like overcome all of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And do you feel like Made to Fade is a very mature album? Like not just you getting comfortable with your instruments and your recording process, but also lyrically you're kind of diving into what's real. And were you kind of in that process, from the first, affectionate impression, that single, to what it is now? Do you feel like you were kind of developing your songwriting, your comfort in writing lyrics? Again, is it kind of a very mature album for you at this point?
I would hope so. I feel like it's a little presumptive to describe my own thing as mature or not. I think that's maybe not my decision, but I would agree with it if it was said. I definitely feel that way. I think it's wow. By the way, I've never had anybody bring up Affection and Impression. Like that was first instrumental I put out years ago.
Great,
So
great song.
you looked on the Bandcamp for sure.
I dig deep.
That
I try
is
to dig deep,
I
so
appreciate it.
no
Yeah,
problem.
no.
Anytime.
So there's actually a number of releases that aren't anywhere anymore that I thought of as more like demo kind of releases. That I took down in part because I didn't feel that they represented what I was doing anymore, and they didn't feel like complete thoughts. And I didn't. I had that thing where I would tell people to check out my stuff, and then they'd just be listening to basically like rough sketches. And I was like, well, I don't want that to be the representative thing. But I definitely, when it comes to lyrics, I think all of my stuff has always been kind of painfully confessional and hard on my sleeve. I think I've always been somebody expressing what an old friend of mine used to refer to as inside thoughts, which are like the things that you think that maybe then you don't want to say out loud to everybody else because it'll kill the vibe or be uncomfortable or
Yep.
what have you.
Mhm.
To me, like art is the place to really express all of that. And it's almost like a social cheat code where it's like, especially performing, which I've really fallen in love with. It's like, oh, I can like scream and sing and get in people's faces and express all of these feelings that if we were just hanging out, I would be ruining the party. I would be killing the vibe. But because I'm like doing it with like, a melody to it and like drums and everybody's moving around, it's like, oh wow, that was fucking great. Like
Oh,
awesome set. And I'm like, fantastic. Like I basically just had a therapy session with you all. And I love that. And that's something that I think art is really, and music in particular, allows. And I think, all of my favorite work throughout my life, everything I've loved and gravitated towards has always been very expressive and on the darker side maybe, but not inherent. Just to me it's like that's just honesty. It's like a level of like extreme honesty in your art. And so I think I've always pursued that, but I definitely would agree that my last couple records in particular I think have been the most just like direct, like far less less hiding behind any sort of metaphor or any sort of storytelling thought as much as just like here's my explicit feelings on this particular thing. And I definitely think that the new album is a more naked record, something that I kind of purposefully did over the last few records was like I for a long time like I wouldn't use my face in album art. And part of that is like I think sometimes when there's a solo project and every cover for somebody is just their face,
yeah.
unless if you're David Bowie, like it's not going to be very interesting at a certain point. I
Here
mean,
at the
like
base,
he's
yeah.
like the one guy. I know the anniversary of his death was yesterday too. I've had Low on a lot lately. And like he's one of the only people who ever got away with that in my mind. Like we're like, and he would find ways to use it interestingly though. Whereas I feel like, I don't want it just to be like, here's another selfie, here's another picture of me. But like I purposefully sort of started incorporating pieces of my like face in artwork. And then the new album has my face on it, but with my eyes distorted. And like that just felt like an important thing for me of like hitting that point of like vulnerability of like, okay, like I felt like this is the album where I'm the most myself
Yeah.
without any like I think these songs have more that lyrics that deal explicitly with my internal feelings rather than like relationship issues. I don't think there's really a whole lot of heartbreak on this album, whereas a lot of my past ones have been that. I think there's heartbreak in like the sense of just losing people because there's a lot of songs about like people I know who have died or people who I miss and like that's a different form though. There's not a lot of romantic heartbreak on this record. And so I felt like it was like I felt like it would be interesting and satisfying for me on an expressive level to finally like really just allow like my actual image to be a part of it. Especially when the title of the project is something that's like a denial, you know, like crimes I didn't commit is kind of inherently like a denial of something.
Yeah.
Or, and I felt like it was an interesting like way to try to like grapple with so I'm totally losing my place.
Oh,
But
please.
like trying to deal with that intermingling of like identity and self and denial and who especially for an album that deals a lot with hitting an age where I can look back and go like, oh wow, like I don't feel like I did 5 years ago, or I don't think I am the same person as then,
Right.
but I'm still living with a lot of the consequences of who I was back then,
Mhm.
and like that like frustration kind of like wanting to, you know, how do you ever move past like your past mistakes? Like I mean the title track is all about like that of like just feeling like am I just going to be defined by, you know, things I got wrong?
Right.
And maybe like I think I'm at a place in my life where there aren't many people around that like care or like remember a whole lot of like interpersonal conflict of mine years ago, but I do, and it's like I think we're our harshest judges and harshest critics, and I've always dealt with that. And so like that was a big thing for me with this record, and I think that that is a more mature thing to be grappling with versus, you know, oh, I miss my girlfriend. Like some of the best, I mean, that's like the best genre of music. Like, that's some of the greatest songs of all time and greatest art, and I will write more of those. But you know, it's I still feel like there. David Byrne one time commented how I think it was during the American Utopia record, how he was producing and working with a lot of other artists at the time, doing a lot of collabs. And I remember him saying how a big piece of advice he tries to really stress to every younger artist is like, you're allowed to write a song about something other than your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like I love that. That has stuck with me, and I really do love that advice because I think it's so easy to fall into that trap because it's just it's a thing everyone can relate to, and it's an easy thing to write lyrics about, but there are a lot of other things that you can work on.
I think so too. And it's one of those things where it's hard to try and find that because when you're going, okay, I want to write a song, what do I write about? And there's an easy path to go down where it's very relatable and people go, oh, okay, I know, I understand. But then if you go into a much deeper, darker depth of yourself and you go, oh shit, this is fucking dark. I wonder how people are going to accept this or understand it or whatever. That feels a bit like a risk, but I think it's something that should be done where you're going, you know, I'm feeling this, I need to get it out, whether it's getting out on a record and have people listen to it or even just perform it to have it almost like a therapeutic session. I think it's extremely important. And of course, you can always do the I miss my girlfriend, miss my boyfriend, but I think there's these moments where you got to go, I got to dig much deeper and just get it all out of my, you know, does that feel like?
Oh, 100%. No, I agree completely. And like and I think too you can dig on a deeper level with those feelings that are kind of more relatable. Or like the last album I did was called Candy Coated, and that record deals a lot with like relationship drama and hookup culture and being a queer person in that world and all of this, but I'm not really singing a whole lot about any one relationship or like being heartbroken over one person. I'm turning it much more inward of like, why am I having these issues? Why are things not going well? Why are things unsuccessful? Or why am I unsatisfied? Why am I unhappy? Because it's like, you can be like, oh yeah, you know, problems with my girlfriend or with my boyfriend or whatever. But then it's like, well, why do I have those problems? Where do those come from? Why have I had the same problems? You know, and then it really does get into that more therapy level. And I've spent several years in therapy, and it's been the biggest advantage ever for me artistically because I feel like it's given me such a better sense of self and better sense of understanding. And I don't think you can make art without understanding. I think art requires understanding, and I think it's a process of understanding. It's part of what I think makes it so wonderful, and part of why I think it's something that like very closed-minded people love to try to censor and regulate. I think because it's something that encourages reflection and understanding and empathy and connection, and those are things that are very dangerous to closed-minded points of view. Um, but yeah, I think I don't know, like that's something that to kind of like bunny trail a little, which I do a lot. I know, especially if I'm excited about something and I'm really enjoying this.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I uh sometimes like I think one of the most boring conversations people have with musicians is like, you know, oh, like, you know, did you ever like do psychedelics? Has that like made you make cool stuff or whatever? And it's like, I'm not gonna say I've never done anything. Um, I'm not going to openly say anything I've done here,
Right.
but it's like I've never felt I will say this, I've never in my life done any sort of substance and then been like, now I'm gonna write music, now I'm gonna make a great work of art, and then have anything that you can listen to the next day and go, oh yeah, I'm onto something. No, never in a million years. And I know that there's people that have done that,
Yeah.
but like even some of the classic examples of that, like the Stooges, where they would make some of the greatest punk songs ever, there's also tracks on some of those albums that are just like 12-minute noise collage while like Iggy Pop reads like William S. Burroughs, and it's just it's like it's a novelty, but it's like okay, like this is not you maybe it maybe got away from you a little there, like, but I feel like conversely, like actual self-improvement and therapy and like things to really commit toward, not that like it's inherently destructive to do drugs or whatever, obviously, but I'm so not the person to judge anyone on that. But like I just feel like I think times in my life where I've been more active physically and like in taking care of myself, in like working on myself, I feel like that's when the really good stuff starts to come out, because that's when you have less blocking you up. And I think a lot about like David Lynch would always talk about that of the myth that artists have to be unhappy to make good stuff, and how he thought he was like, no, imagine how much more good stuff you would have made if you weren't so unhappy. Like, and not that I'm like a happy sunshiny person by any stretch, but like I do believe that it's easy to feel married to your angst as an artist
Mhm.
in a way that like you worry about like, am I going to lose something if I'm not always having a problem, and it's like actually you're probably going to have a lot more room to be able to enjoy doing this, I think.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you brought up with David Lynch is that he always says you need to accept ideas as a gift. Whatever is surreal, as weird as whatever, accept that as a gift and try and see that as something to hold on to, write it down or whatever, include it in something that you're working on. I think that's very important. And I feel like, again, you brought up, you know, one, drugs, which is an easy trope to go down. And I think it's such a, ugh, it's such a ugh place to go to. I've brought it up on certain podcasts where it's like, oh, I took psychedelics and it helped with my mental health, or this, I smoke pot and it helps with this. That's fine. That's great. I'm nothing against that. Take your Adderall if you need it, this, that, and the other. But I've noticed we went into this shift where, you had the 70s and 80s artists, and then even in the 90s where people were doing a lot of drugs and this, that, and then there was that sort of 2000 shift where everybody kind of got clean and got healthy and was like, no, let's put all that shit behind us so we can progress better and be better people. And not just that, but it's hard when you're on tour. You got to stay healthy, you got to stay clean. It's, you don't want to wake up and be completely hungover and take it out on the audience. You want,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know
I've definitely had shows where when I've had like back to back or like with a few within a week or whatever, I've still not done a proper full tour, and that is like a big goal of mine right now. But I've had plenty of like consecutive shows, and I've like gone to New York for a couple gigs. And that's another thing too with like the couple of New York shows I've done. They both were around like personal celebration things. Like one was like the anniversary of starting HRT, one was my birthday, and like I'm seeing all these people I don't get to see most of the time, and and I know that I've heard a lot of artists express this as like a pitfall on tour, where it's like everywhere you go, you're reuniting with people and you're meeting people you haven't seen in a while. Everyone's really happy to see you, and you're happy to see them. And so it's all a party, and that's really great. But the problem is, if you're on like a really serious tour too, you can't have 60 days in a row of doing that. You can't have like with like 2 days off, like you can't. That is just so unsustainable, and that is something that's like I feel like there is a generation of people now that are more aware of all of that, which is fantastic. I mean, even for me, like I'm like late 20s, and like when I work with people for shows that are like in their early 20s, they have such a better like clearer sense of things than I have ever had. Like, and like I've definitely had times where I've done a show after like going way too hard in the paint the night before, and like I've made it a very big priority to not do that ever, because it is like it's just so bad. And like I've done shows where the performance was still great, and by the time I'm on stage, I'm happy to be there and it's a great time. But like just the stress of like getting to that point is so not worth it. And I don't think people can always tell, but it's like I feel a level of guilt where it's like even if the audience doesn't know that like, oh, I was like really having a hard time that day, like I know that I was, and all I could think is like, damn, this would have been even better if I hadn't done that. And I'm very hard on myself in that regard of like I do care about giving a good performance,
Mhm.
and feeling like for me it's like feeling like I gave an honest performance. Like I don't. So I've done a lot of shows in the last year. The last year and a half I started playing, and I definitely like found that like I change my set list every night. I do different songs every night. It's a very important thing to me.
Good.
And like especially, playing a lot of local gigs, it's like, well, if you're having people come out and see you all the time, you don't want to do the same thing every single time because at a certain point they're gonna feel like they could miss a show. And it's like that's
Get
my
that.
thought.
Yeah,
And
no.
I've also always been that nerd that like I go on Setlist FM after I see a band and like I like market like, oh my God, I literally I update my own Setlist FM for my
That's
shows.
awesome.
Like
That's so
I
cool.
I don't think anyone has ever looked at it, but I use it to help keep
Yourself.
track of like what I've done or not. Like
Great.
it for I am that I definitely have that like if I wasn't a fan of my own stuff, why would I be doing this?
No,
Like
I think that's cool.
but
I like that.
but I definitely have had like a personal rule of like if I ever have a song where I'm performing it and I start to not feel present and in the moment and I start thinking about something else, that's when I'm like, okay, I need to not do that one for a bit. I need to change it up. I need to do something different because I never want to be like a bored performer. And I don't think that any good artist ever is like or like any like really like relevant whatever that means.
Yeah,
I'm not into like seeing somebody do something that feels like it's a dress rehearsal or feels like
sure.
going through the motions. I mean, I've seen artists that do that and it's so depressing when you do. Like and I remember one of the members of Tool, which is a band that I think is very high on the list of bands that no, I'm not going to act like I'm better than Tool, but like they definitely are at that point where it's like I don't think that they're particularly concerned
No,
with a whole lot anymore.
no, no.
Nor should they be. I mean, if I was that successful, I probably wouldn't be that worried about anything either. But I remember one of them talking about like, yeah, sometimes I'm on stage and I'm just thinking about like the laundry I've got back at home, and it's just like, oh my God, like what are you doing? That's I don't know, like that's a level that you really have to earn. I don't think if you're playing bar shows you have any like that's so not allowed. Like you need to really that is absolutely 40 years later and several platinum records.
Sure.
Like, if you have a mansion in Calabasas, you can live like that. But like
Right.
otherwise, like you've got to like be in the moment.
Yeah. I think so too. And it's one of those things where even certain artists, I mean, I looked up to Tool, looked up everything that Maynard has done, and it's you can tell certain, he's in the big three: Tool, Pussifer, and Perfect Circle.
Perfect circle.
And you can tell which ones are the day jobs and which ones are the ones where he just really puts every bit.
Oh
And I,
yeah.
I think Pussifer is the one where he really puts a lot of his passion into because I don't know why. I could be completely out of my realm here, but it feels like that one's like his, like, I got to get this artistic shit out of. And then you've got a perfect circle where it's kind of like there's that sort of in between where they're not really working on anything new, but he likes collaborating with them, and then Tool, it's like that's the day job. That's him just going. I'm paying for the winery. I'm paying
Yep.
for this. You can
Yep.
tell that's his day job, and that's one of those things where with Tool, the I don't know if the songs are like that or just the album art where you got to be fully conscious in yourself when you're performing, and I think he's kind of just gone. I'm just here
Yeah.
to pay the bills at this point.
Oh yeah, I we could do a whole several
Oh,
episode
I could
thing
ramble.
talking about all. I
I
could
could
go for
ramble.
hours. I will say a perfect circle is one of my favorite
Oh
things.
yeah.
I used to say to friends of mine, it's Tool for girls and gays. It's like
Yes.
it's the
Yeah.
more feminine, more like
Yes.
I there was a really good like Instagram reel I saw the other day of somebody pretending to be an Amish person hearing Tool for the first time, and at one point the guy is like, it feels gay and homophobic all at once. And
I love that.
I was like, yeah, that's a great description. Like,
So
my like that's always been one of those bands where they have like one foot in like a cool fan base and then another foot in a very broy, ridiculous like Joe Rogan podcast fan
Mhm.
base. Like,
For sure.
and if you need to bleep his name out because you have a podcast, feel okay.
I'm not worried.
Uh,
No, you're good.
anyway, I don't
So
know if that messes with your
no, no,
algorithm.
it's a punk
Okay,
podcast.
yeah.
You can talk about whatever you
Yeah,
want,
but
you know. But
so yeah, with Pussifer, I definitely think that is the only one where he's the guy calling all the shots and it's
okay.
his own music, because everything else is collaborative. And I remember one time him saying before the last Tool record was done, he was like, "Look at how much stuff I do all of the time. Do you think I'm the reason why there isn't another record?" And it was like, he himself has openly said it. So I don't feel like it's being too catty or throwing
No,
shade to mention it. Like that's just kind of a known thing for sure.
I think so.
And yeah, I definitely when I see artists that I really respect and admire, like he's on the I went to his restaurant in Arizona. Yeah, a friend of mine who has an amazing band called Lavola,
Mhm.
um, who I highly recommend. My friend Julian. We went on a road trip back in 2018 from Florida to LA,
Mhm.
and I had never been anywhere. Like I really had like just seen so little of anywhere.
Yeah.
And that was my first real road trip. That was an incredible experience. And we spent a night. We were like, okay, we can go to the Grand Canyon, or we could spend a night in oh, I can't remember the name of the town
Arizona.
because this is being recorded, I can't remember. But
No, you're
yeah,
good. It's fine.
I would remember any other time. But yeah, no, Cottonwood. We went to Cottonwood, Arizona. We were like, so we can go to the Grand Canyon and see one of like the most beautiful things in the world, or we can go to the Tool Singers like vineyard and restaurant. And we went to that.
How was that? Like, tell me about that
It was,
experience.
it
Like,
was
I'm
actually
curious.
really an incredible time. I was wearing a Nine Inch Nails shirt as I often am,
Mhm.
and the bartender there, because they had like a bar and then tables, the bartender like just without saying anything put on Into the Void over the music, and that was really that's like awesome service. We were like the only people there at the time too, so it was just like really cool. It made it immediately feel like, oh, like this is our place, like very casual, laid back vibe. Phenomenal food, and the wine was like, I mean, it's actually really good. So much celebrities like drink stuff is terrible, like very vanity label. But I mean, he actually is working every day, like on the winery and whatnot. This is before his father passed, and like they said something about how like the preserves that came with the bread, like that his father like had a garden that they got stuff from. It was a really wild experience. It was like it felt like how I imagine like Kiss fans must have felt going to like Kiss mini golf in
Sure.
Vegas for the first time. It's like you're like, wow, I'm really here. Like, I've actually gone to Kiss mini golf in Vegas
There
though,
you go.
so
Hey.
I can't talk shit.
No,
But
that's cool. I love that. He's just like, hey, fuck it. Why not? So I love that. Let's get back on you were talking about performing live. Is there any artist that you were like you adored sharing the stage with? Anybody you want to do a shout out to?
oh, there's a lot. I've had a lot there. I could list a lot of people. One of my very favorite people to play shows with, though, I'm gonna just keep it local.
Sure, yeah.
Is a friend of mine, Meg. She has a project called Alien Observer,
Okay.
and I think that she is one of the most fantastic artists around. She has an incredible EP and a bunch of singles, and it's like had just said something about wanting to get an album done this year, and I think she is just such an incredible natural talent and like real like diamond in the rough type vibe. Just like, I mean, the Orlando scene's really great. There's a lot of phenomenal artists
That's all
that
good.
no one knows about, and like I book a lot of my own shows and put them together, so I'm always trying to like really prop everyone up, and I have a very like DIY attitude about it. And Meg is somebody I'm always trying to book her and like always inviting her to shows. And every time I see her, it feels like she just gets better and better and like just seems so natural and confident. And like just I'm totally in love with what she does. So that would be like my go-to.
Mhm.
But there's a number of people that I am that way with and like work with all the time. One wonderful thing with like putting together my own shows is like the embarrassment of riches of like there's a lot of people that if I don't force myself to, I'm just going to be playing the same shows with the same people over and over
Sure.
because
Yeah.
there's so many really cool people. And after every single gig, I'm like, let's do it another one. Let's do it again. And I want to, but I also want to get new people in and
Of course.
give more people stage time and like see more people. And so it's like that struggle of like, how do I like balance,
No, I get
uh,
it.
my like my ride or dies and new people. It's like
Yeah.
I really though, yeah, Meg's really special. And then there's a phenomenal act from I believe Daytona called Calum Wraith,
Mhm.
and they're a really spectacular like kind of electro goth group. And Jen and Edward are like the two main people behind it, and they are just some of the sweetest people. And like they were one of the first bands I played a show with where like I didn't book it and I just got on a lineup with them because of Nullify, who I know you've had on your show, who was how I first saw about this show, who is, by the way, one of my favorite people in the world.
So cool.
Null is the real deal. Null is on that list of like when I talk about when I meet younger people and they just have it figured out in a way that like none of the rest of us ever have, I don't think. Like they are so high up on that list of like I don't know how they put together so much shit so well at
Very,
like
very
just
cool.
like hit the ground running, like really incredible talent and drive and like sense of perspective. Like that's what gets me is like not getting wrapped up in all the nonsense, just like helping make really cool things happen. And Null put me on a lineup with Calum Wraith, and like we hit it off and have done shows since then. And I really need to get another one together with them soon. But they're great. We did I think it was the first show we did together where they had me do like guest vocals during a song,
Ooh.
and that was the most fun. Like I was still really like inexperienced performing. I had only done like a handful of shows really, and I was like kind of like I was still like getting my sea legs.
Mhm.
And so to have like an artist be like, "Do you want to do like guest spot?" I was like, "Yeah,
So
absolutely!" Like that was just huge, and like it wasn't like a huge crowd or anything, and it was probably better because of it, because it was like, all right, I don't even have to worry too much. It's like anybody who was there knows it was really cool.
awesome.
But yeah, that was a really special one. But I've really been blessed with meeting and working with so many awesome people. I mean, I would really struggle to name people that haven't been terrific. And I think like when you're at that like lower level of like doing bar gigs, doing like small shows everywhere, like I think the assholes get weeded out pretty naturally,
Yeah.
because it's just no one's like making any real money. Like it's not. I think part of the way that like people who are like unpleasant to work with get to stick around in the music scene is because they're benefiting everyone so much. Like if you're like a really successful artist, well, there's a lot of money tied up in it, so people are going to accommodate that. And I think when you're not at that point, you kind of have to be decent and like you got to be. Oh, More Is Not Enough is another band. This guy Pedro, he is incredible. One of the coolest people I've ever met and worked with. We did a show together. He was on tour. I believe I don't want to get the state wrong, but he's from somewhere in the South. But he was on tour and we did a show in like a basement venue, which is very uncommon in Florida. And yeah, like I said, I could name so many people, so I'm just gonna shut up at this
No, you're
point.
fine. I'm pulling up more is not enough. I'm gonna find out.
They're about to tour with
Tennessee.
Faye. Yeah,
Tennessee.
he's gonna tour with Feilu from South Carolina,
Ooh,
and they
wow.
were a band I did a show with as well through
Mhm.
Null that are also just lovely people.
Yeah,
And yeah, they're touring together, and that's just like that's gonna be really cool. If this comes out and anybody sees it and they're in your area, go see them.
for sure. Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And tell me about before Crimes I Didn't Commit. Tell me about were you, working on music? Were you just kind of the person listening to music and going, I can dream, I can dream? Were you in like, local bands or anything? Tell me about that process pre Crimes I Didn't Commit. What were you kind of working on artistically?
so that's a really great question, and I actually have a lot I can say on that.
Please, please do.
Rare, I know. I don't
No,
usually say
you're
a lot.
fine. No, please.
Um, no, before like coming up with like the concept of that or what have you, or the moniker or whatever, I had always been somebody that I was deeply into music and deeply entrenched in it, and I was very much that kid that was like, this band saved my life, like
Oh yeah.
decorating my walls with so I remember as like a middle schooler I had like a notebook where I would transcribe lyrics that I loved from bands that like I just like so dorky and like but I was absolutely that kid. I was 100% that kid. I was like obsessed with it, like my everything was just built around music and art that I loved, and that and movies, and that was kind of all I cared about for
Yep.
like my entire adolescence.
Yep. I can
and
relate.
uh and uh I remember though, like I didn't have really a whole lot of opportunity to like I grew up very poor and like we couldn't like band class, you had to like pay a deposit for the instrument and stuff. Couldn't do it, so I couldn't take band. And I took chorus, and chorus was it was a great way to not go to gym, but it was also it was also
Yeah.
like
Yes.
uh I did. It's funny because I look back now and I have times where I'm like, damn, I actually am applying a lot of things I learned as far as breath technique and whatnot from chorus that I would have never in a million years thought. Like, I used to think, oh, that was such a waste of time.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, like I know how to breathe from my diet. It's why I can like scream live and do everything. Like, so it actually paid off.
Yeah.
But so I don't want to be totally dismissive, but
No. Yeah. Yeah.
it was frustrating because like I was like in middle school and all of the music that the teacher picked was like very old, very like lots of like very like religious Catholic type songs and Latin stuff. And I remember like it was like nothing made after like 1990 was pretty much allowed in the classroom. And like and I remember like a girl wanting to sing a Beatles song and her freaking out that no, we're not gonna have like you can't sing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And but then we would sing a song that referenced the Beatles, which I found fascinating. Like we're
So
not allowed to like them, but we can totally wild, like very wild.
wild.
Like,
Yeah. Hypocrite.
yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't thought of that in a long time. Wow, but yeah, it was very like conflicting and strange. So it was like I had a hard time like getting a whole lot out of it. But now, like I said, I did actually gain a lot of technique stuff from it. But that was and so then that was kind of it as far as like being able to do much in that. I was always writing a lot. I wrote a lot of like fiction and short stories. I had a period when I was younger where I would like get stuff published, and I used to really want to do that more. And I always felt frustrated because I had that desire of like I can't make this loud. Like like I can't like you know like you can turn up a song, you can't turn up a book, you can't turn up a painting. I would always paint a lot. I still paint. I do all my album art. I design all my flyers. Like I really love making visual art, but it's like making it in tandem with sound is so much cooler to me than just making it on its own. So I always felt unsatisfied on that front of like not having that. And that is what I really wanted to do. And I think once I hit the age where it was like, okay, I could get more into that, I was very insecure about it. And I was going to a lot of shows and I was like friends with a lot of artists. And I remember like a couple of times, like I remember like talking about the Mars Volta with some random guy at like a coffee shop because he was on his guitar. And he was like, "What do you play?" And I was like, "Nothing." He was like, "Oh, usually like people that aren't musicians don't like Mars Volta." But I was like, you know, D Louse is great.
Oh,
Okay, so,
such
but
a
I
great album.
oh, that's my favorite.
One of
Yeah,
my favorite. Oh, I can
incredible
go.
record.
I can
But
dig into
yeah,
that one.
yeah.
But go ahead.
Oh yeah. But anyway, I love we have a lot of overlap, I think. But
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
no, I just I would have those interactions though of like, and it would just frustrate me because I always felt like, damn, like I want to be doing this, and I don't know what to do. And I loved a lot of electronic music, and I loved a lot of that kind of stuff, but I just never really thought it was something I was going to manage. And I remember a guy that I had seen play a couple shows was talking to me, and he was like, you know, do you want to make music? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you have a computer? I went, yeah. And he said, then stop fucking around because you can do it. Like you don't have an excuse. And that really I needed to hear that. I really needed that. Like sometimes you need somebody to be like, just do the thing. Because like I think it's so easy to let the idea of it stay the idea because you're afraid of failing and then not having that fantasy anymore. And that is a mindset that I've really spent a lot of time in my life desperately trying to not give into because I think it is what leads to people never doing anything that they really want to. And that's just life is too full of bullshit to not try things. You know what I mean? Like so like it's just like traffic sucks. Like basic there's just so many basic moments of life that are terrible that it's or unpleasant. Not to mention how awful the world is that it's like why deprive yourself of the opportunity to like feel like you've done something you can be proud of.
Sure.
And I especially like making art, like it's not gonna hurt anybody. Like why not do it? But I remember though I started messing around and like teaching myself some stuff, and I remember I started doing karaoke a lot, and that was where I really realized like okay, I actually love singing. I love doing this in front of people. I'm really getting like this like battery feeling from this. Like this is really cool, and that all like pushed me and motivated me to do more show like do more like work on music and try to learn how to do it. And I already had like the name I had come up with, and I was playing like I had a lot of like terrible GarageBand demos that I couldn't really show anybody, which you need to do that. Like
Yes,
I will
you have
say,
to.
I have friends sometimes that are like, I want to make music, but oh, anytime I do it sucks. And it's like, good.
Good.
That is the like you have to make so much bad stuff,
Yeah.
and everything you do gets you closer to doing something that you actually like. Like recontextualizing that sense of failure is really important, I think. And that's been huge for me as a person is you're not failing, you are taking the steps necessary to get to the success, to get to the thing that you're going to like. And every second that you spend working on something and it just feels like a waste of time, you actually just got that out of your system and like you have a better like it's 100% like a perspective thing. And I know that sounds kind of self-helpy, but like it
No,
really is
a
true.
lot
It
of people
really
need
is
to
true
hear
though.
that. Yeah, a lot of people need to hear that when it's,
Oh yeah.
especially when you're a musician. There's so many people, even with my kids, they'll struggle with that where they go, "Well, I just feel like I'm not good enough." I'm like, "No, you need to push past that
Yeah.
and just keep going because
Yeah.
you have to write." I heard this term. I think it was from Pink Floyd. That said sometimes you have to write for the wastebasket, meaning you have to
Mhm.
just keep going it. If you don't like it, throw it away, but keep going until you go, "This is it."
That's a much more succinct way of saying what I was trying to. I
Mhm.
like that phrase a lot.
Yeah.
Writing for the wastebasket. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of that, and then in 2017 I went to New York City for the first time, and I saw Nine Inch Nails and A Tribe Called Quest at a Panorama Fest, and that was like one of the coolest experiences of my life. But the night before that, Alessandro Cortini, who's in Nine Inch Nails and does a lot of like electronic stuff, and Josh Eustace of Telephone Tel Aviv, who also had been in Nine Inch Nails. They were doing a show at Webster Hall, and I went to that, and it was in like the smaller room there. It was before the renovations, and it was the first time I had ever actually seen like an electronic artist show. I had never really experienced like witness every show I had ever gone to was like rock bands, punk rock, stuff like that, and I loved it. But like I never had really seen that kind of thing, and it blew my fucking mind. And it that I remember vividly standing there in that room bathed in like red light and just thinking like, oh, I want to do this in some way. Like I don't know if I'll ever be the hardware kid up there with all that stuff, but I want to be like performing, and I want to find some way to be a part of things like this. And I remember that was just enormous for me. And I like got like a Korg Volca, which they were like new at the time, and those were like just it was like $200, and you get an analog
Those
synth,
are
and
fun. I
you
love
can do
those.
so much with it. That was such a great intro to like yeah, because it was like I never had all the serious money for serious gear, and that was really huge because I starting out I hated like everything being like VSTs and everything being like a DAW and everything being just I didn't even have a MIDI keyboard at the time, so it was all very limited and like touch screen and stuff. And you can do everything ever with all of that, but when you're learning, it doesn't feel very satisfying. So like
Yeah.
getting something where like, oh, there's knobs I can turn and all that was huge. And like I definitely made a lot of nonsense. But it was again, it was I was learning so much in the process. But so like as far as like from the moment I started making music, like CRIMESIDIDNTCOMMIT was definitely the project. And the idea of it was that it was going to be multimedia, that it was like going to be an umbrella for like I'll have like I can do writing tied to things, and on my Bandcamp with most releases, I'll have like some little piece of writing or like I have an album called Silk where there's a short story that accompanies the title track or like things like that. And then it was like I'll have art and I'll have art under that name and I'll make all my own artwork and I'll do it. So it was kind of like how can I very selfishly be like I want to do everything all at once and like have it all be under one thing. So it was that, but yeah, the road to getting to where I actually made music definitely took me a long time, and it's something I always knew that I wanted to, and I was just so like I was so worried that I was gonna suck, and it's like I did, and it's fine.
Yeah. It's
I
okay.
don't think I do now.
Right.
I think I'm pretty okay at it.
No, I think
Uh,
you're great. Yeah.
like I wouldn't be putting it out there now, but like I definitely I just needed to have that. I needed to have people tell me like, no, you can just do this. Because it always felt like, especially like being a kid where like I couldn't go to band, I couldn't do that. It got ingrained in me that like this is something other people get to do, and this isn't. You don't do this. Like it was that feeling, and realizing like, no, that's bullshit. Like you can do whatever you want. Like
Oh, for sure.
that's such a big part of life in general is like unlearning being told to know your place. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And that's what you need to do is that you always set up this comfort level and you put up these walls and you're going, look, I'm too scared to go past this point. But you really like there's comfort and there's satisfaction and fear. It's like being on,
Yeah.
getting excited before you go on to a roller coaster, before you get up on stage. You get that nervous tension, that excitement, but there's kind of a high in that, if I can
Yeah.
be honest. And you know, that's the thing, is that your body puts up these walls, and it's important for you to go, no, fuck that. I'm going past that.
Mhm.
That's kind of what I do with this podcast, where it was so easy for me to just, talk music, geek music, and be afraid to talk with people. And I go, no, fuck that. Get out there and, talk with other artists and get to know other people. Not just that, but network and communicate, instead of just being the guy who's just like, oh, I love music, I'll do that. No, get in the muck of it and just start doing what you can. And I think that's the most important thing, is fuck it, just do it. Fuck it,
Mhm.
do it. It doesn't matter. And, get past that wall of anxiety, get past that, and see what
Literally,
you can achieve.
I agree all that 100%. And literally, like a friend of mine makes fun of me sometimes because I'll go fuck it all the time. Like
Yeah.
that's it's
Mhm.
such an important, like
So
for me it's the
important.
most freeing, liberating thing of
It,
like going. I spent so much of my like adolescence terrified, and
yes.
then like I always dealt with so much anxiety, and then I hit a point in my 20s where I was just like, okay, so what? Like, do I want to just be paralyzed with this all the time, or do I want to at least do things? Like, if I'm gonna feel like this, no matter like, because the idea is like you're avoiding risk or danger of some kind, like it's fight or flight, and it's your body's telling you, oh, this thing is a form of risk or a form of danger or a threat, so let's avoid it. But if you're feeling like that all the time while doing nothing, you may as well do something while you're feeling that way, right? Like, and it's easier said than done, but like it really is like I think you have to get sick of it at some point and just go like fuck this. And that's like I've done that with everything artistically in my life, and then I've done that with transitioning, and I've done that with therapy. I avoided therapy for so long.
Oh yeah,
There
you
are a lot
fight
of people that suffered because of it that I feel like there's a lot of people that would definitely go like, yeah, you sure did.
it.
Like I really put it I really
No, I
put it
get it. I understand, because
yeah.
I put off therapy for so long, and it's the most
Finally
freeing
finally
thing.
going, okay, maybe I need to give this a shot, even if like everything in me is still just throwing this tantrum of like I don't wanna like, yeah, but maybe you should, like maybe you should try it. And it totally like transformed things for me. And like then like I've done the same thing with performing in the last year and a half of like the first show I put together was a so I should clarify, about 4 years ago, I did a handful of shows that I don't really count as like real shows. They were like, it was like material that never really got finished. It was like totally messy. That was in a period of my life where things are very, very bad. That was actually right when I then started therapy. I like went to the psych ward. Like things were really messy, and I was not. I definitely was like not doing what I wanted to be doing.
Sure.
And so then I finally like hit the wall where about a year and a half ago I was like, I think I want to do it, and I think I want to really try to do it, and I don't know how. Like I don't know how to get booked. I don't know who to talk to. I hadn't been out and about in a long time, and like I kind of like withdrawn from things.
Right.
And I ended up putting together like a show that zero people came to, and it cost me $200, and
Yeah, yeah, you
it
really
was
bite that bullet on that one. Yeah, I've been there. Oh
humiliating.
God, play for
It
the
was
sound guy.
it
So.
was humiliating. There was no sound guy. There was one big speaker.
Mhm.
It was in a it was I don't want to talk shit about anybody involved with the place or whatever, but it was so not what I was expecting, and and I my mom had been in the hospital at the time, and things were really, it was like a perfect storm of like, oh, this is just, no, honey, don't do this. Like, and it went so badly. And I had already, so this is the level of fuck it, just do it that I have embraced.
Sure.
Before having done any of these shows, I had already booked a show for up in New York and put
Okay.
together a lineup
Fuck
at
it,
a
do it. I
venue
love that. Yep.
totally remotely with like friends of mine. So just like figured that out all on my own, having never done it. I did that before doing my first real show. And so I had that in the pipeline, and I'm so glad that I did because it forced me to have to do it again. But I also was, I remember like calling my friend on the way home and just being like, I don't want to do this. This is, I feel so, I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. Like, this is humiliating. Like, I should just like go hang out at a gas station.
Right.
I don't know what that meant, but I do remember saying that. I remember saying that. I was like, I just belong at a gas station
You're just
somewhere.
breaking down. Whatever's coming to, I've been there, where you
Yeah.
just break down and go, I should just not even,
hmm
whatever.
Yeah, and it was so like dismal, and I felt so just like tail between my legs. but I'm so glad it happened and that that was my first experience because it really gave me a feeling of like ever since then, anytime I've had a show where there's been any sort of like real issue, I can usually tell myself it's better than that. And you got through like I woke up the next day and then the next day and things kept happening and I'm doing like so it's like yeah, recontextualizing failure as just an experience to get something from can be really, really great.
Yeah.
And when it comes to performance, especially, and I think performing is something that it's not, it wouldn't be like a live show if there wasn't room for failure, if there wasn't a chance of things going wrong. At that point, you're just lip syncing, you know? Like it's, and even that can fuck up. So, like, you know, it's just like, I don't know, like that's part of the like high of performance is that like sense of like, acceptable risk. Like we're all like everyone present knows like things could go wrong. Like, you know, there's going to be feedback or something's going to mess up or you might have to, you know, fix a cable in the middle of a set and it might be really frustrating in the moment, but also it's like you're there and you're in the moment and it's very real. And I think like in a world where things are so in a culture where things are so sorry I did the movie trailer in a world thing. Uh,
In a world where everything's so
yeah.
fucked up.
And
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
well, in a culture though where like so much of mainstream music in particular feels incredibly assembly line and hyper perfect,
Better.
like
Cookie
perfect to a degree that is like off-putting to me, where it's like things have been dialed in so well, and there are people that know how to make things so perfectly, and plugins that can make things so flawless, and you know, not a single missed note, not a single thing out of place, and everything is just the right levels, and it's like I'm not really interested in it. And it takes me back to like the infamous Brian Eno quote about how, you know, every single thing about a medium that you view as a limitation will one day be something that people love. You know, that like the tape hiss that you might resent now and want to fix is something people are going to end up wanting to imitate. Like all of that, like there's beauty in imperfection. And to me, that's where art comes from is real flaws and real risk and that feeling that things could be a mess. And like there's been times where like when I'm recording vocals, especially because that's where you get to really feel naked and like when you're self-producing as well, you can just over and over and over like no there's no one there to tell you like you're done
Yeah.
so you can just really like get obsessive and it's like there'll be times where like I'll be like ooh like I can make this note better I can hit this line better but I really like to and I normally do this I like to record in all full takes
Yeah.
and most of what I release is like a full take. I don't like doing a lot of overdubs. I'll do it if I have to like fix like a pop or you know if there's an issue with sound. But like I really don't like I try not to overdub things just because oh well I want that line to sound better. You know, and I think it's really important to like commit to like no like this need especially when you're working with like predominantly electronic stuff like I do where it's all like you know, very like clean sounding sometimes. I think it's really important to let your voice have some degree of failure. And like, so one of my biggest influences, if not my biggest as a singer, is Mark Almond
Mhm.
from Soft Cell.
Yeah.
And I remember him talking about the formation of Soft Cell and how a big goal of his was like singing operatically and yet with punk rock abandon of like doing these very very like big you know expressive showy like you know kind of like you know operatic vocals and yet not being afraid if something's like failing not being afraid if there's a missed note or a voice crack or something and growling and you know doing performances where it's not technically perfect but it's like you're getting something so much more immediate out of that. And like that is so like what I try to do and what I think of as like my style. And yeah, I feel like in a landscape where things are so hyper polished, like I at least I can't speak for anyone else, but I gravitate towards things that feel more have some degree of rawness, have some degree of, you know, and that's part of what makes shows great is things can fuck up and like watching an artist bounce back from that is so fun as an audience member and it can feel like you're like witnessing something special it's just I love that.
I think so too. And for me, I think I again I gravitate to a lot of raw artists where, and even when I was doing sets, it would be let's kind of start off with something a little bit more mysterious, ominous, and then kind of do a song. And then I used to do like remixes of, you know, more pop acts or whatever, just to kind of add that. But then I'll go into this full blown experimental synth jam type of, you know, crazy new age experimental, like and I was very, noise kind of like
Mm,
influenced by like Alec Empire of Atari Teenage Riot
yeah.
or Trent Reznor with like what was one, the Great, is it the Great
Great
Destruction,
Destroyer.
Great Destroyer. My God, I was so moved by that song where it was just, it builds up and then it's just like, and just a wall of noise and everything. Like I was so moved by that that I wanted to bring that into like a lot of my sets where it's this, you got your what people like, but then it's like just bring in this fucking like freak
Yeah,
people out, like, and I love
totally.
that rawness in music.
Oh, if you don't freak somebody out, I don't think you're. I don't know. There's music that you shouldn't be freaking people out,
Yeah,
but like the type of music I do or that I
yeah,
like, somebody should be a little uncomfortable
for
at some
sure.
point.
Yeah, you want
I
somebody to be taken back, just like, whoa, shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be like, oh, you need to shake things up, especially at a show. I
I
think.
got a noise complaint for the first time recently where I was playing a show. There's this really cool thing called Goblin Market, and
Yeah.
they do it in like a mall parking lot. And
Oh wow.
it's like all, well, they'll have this huge chunk of like parking lot set aside, and it's just like row after row of all these like merchants and tents and food trucks and stuff. And it's all like queer and goth stuff.
Oh,
So like
that's
I'm right
cool.
at home, and it's really cool. And I got invited to perform, and lovely people. Like it was a great experience, and I would be honored to do it again at some point. Really fun. But it was also like there was a novelty factor of like, damn, I'm playing a show in a mall parking lot. This is so punk. Like this is so like this is really fun. Like I was like this is a novelty moment. And then I was like the last performer of the day, and I was the only person all day that one of the businesses on like the end of the mall like reported a noise complaint over, and they had to turn the volume down in the middle of my set. And
Oh
I
no.
was just like, this is kind of cool. I felt like, all right, this is a good ass show. This is a
Right.
good one. Like this was a winner. Like I can be proud of my work here. Like, all right, it was like 6 p.m. and I got a noise complaint. Like I'm crushing it. Um, and I just did a house show or something similar happened. Like it's just like I do like that is that feeling of like you gotta do something that's a little disruptive sometimes. A friend of mine who's a sound engineer, she said to me one time, "You're not if you're not redlining, you're not headlining." and and I know that's like totally nonsense, but I
No, I
also
think that's
love
funny.
it. I do love it. Like I do have that part of me that's like you gotta like make a little bit of a mess, and like especially like being like on the queer spectrum with shows and stuff and performing with a lot of queer people and like going to drag shows and having like a lot of having a lot of connections with people in that world. It's like you go see drag shows nowadays and it's like everything is covered in like confetti and blood and there's like candles and smoke everywhere, and it's like it's very like tactile and intense, and like there's a celebration of like mess and like fucking things up, and I find that very raw. To me, like punk rock is like I don't think of it as necessarily a music genre as I do an ethos, because if it was just a genre that's like then people wouldn't say that it's dead in the terms of like there's plenty of like homogenized stuff that sounds like that, but punk is also like a mentality, and to me it's like a shorthand for just not worrying about like sets of rules and just being aggressive and expressive regardless of how trained you are, how much you know. And I love that, and I really gravitate towards that spirit with shows, and like so that desire for like tactility and like something to like let you interact with people and get like breaking. I love breaking the barrier between like stage and audience. And I did a show at my album release show. Actually, I had a bunch of people get on the stage with me and just like hang out and dance around all show, and that was a really fun time. And I'm sure some people were uncomfortable, but there's a lot of photos from it where people look like they're having a blast. So it was a great time.
That's
But
all that matters.
um, I started after my first few shows, I was like, okay, like live I'm just singing, and it's like I'm not it's like I'm a singer live, and so it's like okay, like how do I like boost like how much I'm interacting with people, and other than just getting in people's faces, which I do all the time, constantly. But I was like, so I on a whim I got a like bubble gun that like shoots bubbles.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen any photos or video, but there's a lot of it. So that's something I do at like almost every show. I will bring bubble guns, and I try to have two, or I can give one to somebody in the crowd to do it and then have me do it. So it's like an extra level of spontaneity. But sometimes I just have the one. But regardless, I will like shoot bubbles at people and get up in their faces, and like it's people love it. People really, really. I remember that it felt like I had just like split the atom. I was like, oh my God, like I just figured out an amazing way to like bother people acceptably. Like, well, just like, and a way to like get people to like let go, because that was something I noticed right away was like a struggle for me at shows sometimes can be if you see people. I feel like nowadays I see a lot of audience members at shows at like local gigs that are a little more like keeping to themselves and a little more like standing back and not getting as into it. And I've found now there's people that is just how they're going to enjoy things, and that's fine, no problem.
Sure.
But I think like there's a lot of people that maybe like want to get out of their shell more, and finding ways to like encourage that beyond just like saying into the mic, like, get closer, which I do all the time, but still like finding ways to like break that barrier down and give people that immediacy. Because to me, like live shows are all about being present in the moment. It's like it's meditation, but instead of silence, it's like overstimulation. It's like meditation through a completely opposite means. And I find it so much more like effective for me, where like I'm somebody that I'm like very high energy and like let's go, let's do it. Like I love it. Like I'm so in the moment and present, and it's just like as an audience member, that's what I'm always chasing whenever I go to shows. Like that's what I want. I want to feel like lost in the moment and like wrapped up. And I feel like the bubble gun thing just became this incredible cheat code to like suddenly everyone acts like a kid. People love it. People like you'll just see people's like inner child just like come out, and they're just like people like dance around and jump and pop them in the air, and like it's like everyone turns into a rave kid. It's like it's a great vibe. Like it's a really awesome time.
No, it's great.
And so like I've that's been one of those like, oh damn, this is really fun. And I definitely want to do more things like that. But part of my love for that too is that it's like it's cheap and easy to replace and easy to get anywhere. And like when I go to New York, I can just like ship one to a friend's house and pick it up, and it's like so like that's part of the fun is like I'm interested in things like that, but I also am interested in things that are like very DIY and very like I also don't have the budget for it, but even if I did, I like seeing performers that do things that are a little more gritty, a little more oh, I could do that vibe. I like that feeling. I love feeling like, oh, I could do that. And I feel like, you hit a certain level where it's like you'll see some people with really cool like light shows and stuff on like very small like rooms, and you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, this is like a like $4,000 setup, and I'm like, well, son of a bitch, like I would be so terrified to be performing with that of like I want to break things and knock stuff around. Like I would be so anxious if I was carrying around stuff that expensive all the time. It would just be overwhelming. So that I think that is a difference between some performers. There are some people that really want to like maintain all their equipment, and there's people that are like I'm viewing it as like a means to an end. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either, but I'm definitely more of a means to an end type, where it's like I like the feeling that some shit could break and it's not the end of the world. It's actually just a really cool show.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I share the exact because every show that I've done, it's very low maintenance. I don't do lights. I don't do screens. I would love to if I had the budget, but most of it's just me and my gear. And my gear has taken some serious sacrifices. I got some keys that are,
Amazing.
yeah, you got to have, and when you're into it, man, you just got to feel it. And I'm okay with having a keyboard. I mean, it still works, but it's, it's a little touchy, but it's one of those things where it's like when you're in the moment, that's what's important. And I could not have a whole lighting system or a whole projection system and go, oh my God, if this breaks, then it loses an element of the show. And
I never want to feel dependent on too much. Yeah.
For sure.
Like I'm all for like there's been times where like I play with people that have really cool lights that they'll let me borrow or set up during, and that's all. Like Caleb Wraith, we did a show where they had like a fog machine set up, and then they had lights that they were able to like encode to like the like beat of everything. and like the drums, and they had that going throughout my set, and it was really awesome and vibey. But like, yeah, I don't, especially being like a one person show, it's like
Mhm.
I. I don't have it in me to like try to figure all of that out all at once, but I do want to get a fog machine. And the biggest worry for me is just that it's like that's one of those worlds, much like with all music equipment or anything like it, where it's just there's like low end stuff that sometimes there's a surprisingly really good low end thing, and then there's high end stuff that can be a total ripoff, or also like not wanting to be carrying something around that feels so like valuable that I'm terrified of anything happening to it. Like that, just like other than like my laptop, like I don't want to hold like microphones are cheap. Like it's
Mhm.
like you can get like solid, like it's things like that. Like I'm fine with that, but I always like want to have that. Like I don't believe the let me think. What I'm trying to say is I don't think that budget necessarily leads to a better show all the
I
time,
think so
if
too.
that makes sense. I
No,
think it can be, I mean, I like obviously like we've both mentioned Nine Inch Nails, and like I'm a huge Trent fan, and I've seen 14 Nine Inch Nails shows,
ooh.
and anyone who watches this who's my friend is gonna laugh because I mention that all the time.
No, that's okay because
But,
you've seen them
but
more than I have. I
yeah.
saw them 3 times. That's about it. So.
Yeah, I mean that's still amazing though. It's one of the best shows. And like I've seen a lot of different tours and different versions of that band live.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen them with the huge crazy lighting rigs and like the one they just did with the two stages and everything. And it's awesome. But my favorite shows were the ones where they were doing where it was just like a like stained like tarp behind them and then really simple lights and like well for them, I mean it's still like world class level, but it's like just like individual lasers and like shadow play stuff. And those were some of the most incredible, memorable visuals, just like thick fog and shadows, like to me is as good as anything. It is as impactful to add to the feel of a song as any big video content you could have.
Mhm.
And 9 times out of 10, that's the show I'd rather go to.
That's awesome.
And like I obviously I'm not on that level at all. But I don't want anyone to hear this and think I'm like equating that. Like no. It's just a useful example of like I don't think huge production is necessarily like important for just about anything. I think if it's hitting, it's hitting. And yeah, like I just it's weird because like I've done a lot of shows at like pretty established like cool venues. I've been very lucky to like play on some cool stages, and then I've just started doing house shows. I had never done
That's
them before.
fun.
And it's like I'm like a year and a half into doing shows, and it just now hit the point where me and my friends are like, what if we just do this sometimes at like, so and so's house? And we all love it, and it's so fun. Like this last weekend we had like a fog machine hooked up, and it was just like seeing photos of that was awesome. It was just like you can make any room look really cool with like fog and lights. You don't need a whole like just a couple simple lights. Like you don't need much. And I definitely think minimalism can be really crucial if you're going for a more tactile, immediate experience for people. And when you're playing small rooms, like I think like for like a band like Nine Inch Nails, like they're doing like arena shows, you need a lot going on maybe to help
Yeah.
connect. But like, because you're performing to people like in the nosebleeds and way up high. The places I'm playing, it's like max capacity of a few hundred people, and I love it. And it's like to me though, that's like okay, well then I like just getting into that space of like how can you make everyone in the room feel connected and a part of something and outside of themselves? Because like that's my favorite shows. I feel like I'm outside of myself. I feel like I'm like just like
Out of
lost in the
place.
moment and I'm not thinking about anything else going on in the world and I'm not thinking about anything in my life or
Kind of
whatever.
thinking about your laundry. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. Unlike some people,
Yeah. Right.
the very successful, brilliant people. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that is an important thing for me though, is having that just intensity, that connection, and that's definitely where like I think of like that like punk mentality, where that's very like all about like rawness and immediacy and connection. And like one of my favorite shows I ever went to, there's this really heavy band called Uniform.
Mhm.
Are you familiar?
Mhm.
They're great. Yeah, and I saw them touring with the Black Queen, and they were opening, and I love both bands, but the sound was fucking up so bad during Black Queen, or like you literally couldn't
Oh yeah.
hear like anything. It was really tough.
Yeah.
But Uniform, fucking incredible, absolutely incredible, and just I had never heard them before. I like they were literally just on the lineup, and I was totally unfamiliar, And I walked out of that show and I was like, damn, I'm like this, I love this band now, and like I want to go home and listen to all their records. And like but like I remember like being front row and the lead singer just like spitting into my face from screaming so hard. And I remember just being like, this is the coolest shit. Like this is the best fucking vibe. Like I love that. I love that stuff. I love that feeling of there just being nothing between audience and performer and that intensity. It's just it's so fun. I really love playing places, you know, like bar venues especially. There's a lot of spots where there isn't a real stage or it's like just a really short one. And I love playing places with like cool proper high up stages. But every time I always end up moving down anyway and like moving my mic stand into the floor because it's just a fun feeling. It's just like it's that connective experience. Like I remember doing a show where I like destroyed the mic stand I had bought, and that was when I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to like always be reliant on like a thing to like lean on, because I do feel like there's a lot of,
Yeah.
for me as somebody like I've dealt with a lot of self-consciousness and whatnot like in my life. Sometimes performing can be like such a scary thing of like just the feeling of like being seen and like putting yourself in this very vulnerable state where like you're not, your makeup's gonna get messed up, your hair's gonna get messed up, I sweat like crazy, it's like you're gonna look like shit,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be really cool. Like it's gonna be
Totally.
great.
Yeah.
Like no one cares about that, and like getting that inner voice to shut up. And it's like I think sometimes it's easy to hide behind things.
Yep.
And that was so I did a few shows without like doing the bubble gun thing because I felt like I wanted to make sure it wasn't becoming a crutch for me, you know? And then I did shows without it and it was fine. I was like, oh, okay, then I'm gonna keep having fun. Like, but I never want to feel like I'm doing something that is a way of not putting myself in the vulnerable position. Because like that's the whole point. Like you were saying earlier about just like getting a high out of the anxiety. It's like, yeah, like if you don't, I think if you don't feel some degree of risk or like worry or fear, what have you, when you're going to perform, I don't know if you should be doing it. Like
Right.
that's something I believe. Like at least for me, I think if I ever like hit a streak of shows where it was just like, oh, it's like taking out the trash. It's like, then why am I doing this?
I
Like
know. And
I don't.
I get like that where if like if I don't do anything for a long time, I get stir crazy and it's like you want to break out of these molds, you know, with making music or getting up on stage because it's like you need to break free of the monotony. You know what I mean? Or just the simplicity. You know, it's
Oh,
does
yeah,
that make sense?
100%. That's such a big part of the point for me is like it is about breaking out of the daily life and daily nausea and daily boredom and just like everything, like just so like I said earlier, like so much of life is spent in commute, in traffic,
Yeah.
in waiting rooms, in just
God.
later waiting on meetings. What like so much of life is built around killing time or wasting time or feeling, you know, and all of those are like experiences that we spend so much time doing. And it is like a position of privilege to do it, but like you then end up spending so much time though not in the moment and not present and in your head or listening to a podcast or listening to music or doing whatever, and you know like doing a crossword or you know, whatever, just like there's all, and it's all just built around distraction and built around uh not feeling present. And I think shows are such a beautiful, wonderful, when they're good, like way to, even when they're bad sometimes, like way to shake yourself out of that and force yourself to be in the moment. And I think it's that for audience members and for performers. And I think it is a beautiful way to create a room where you can have a real sense of unpredictability and anything can happen.
Yeah. Of
Things can go wrong, things can
course.
go really right.
Of
You
course.
never know what's going to go on next. And like that feeling, and yet it's also, if everything's being done properly, it's safe. Like no, there's not going to be any actual, you know, danger. It's like it's, and I love that. Like that's an ethos for me with booking shows is like, and running events is like this idea of like, especially like in the last year and a half when I've started doing it, it's like we're in a landscape where things feel so constantly terrifying and oppressive. And especially like in the, without getting into all of it, like in the last week in the news, like there's been so much horrific stuff going
Oh
on.
my
And it's
God.
just,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, it's really, really, I'm somebody that like, I've been like, I deal with a lot of like having days where I just feel so like defeated and depressed and despair like filled because of like what's going on in the world, and it is just overwhelming, and by design it's overwhelming. And when it's all of these things happening at like a large scale level, you feel very powerless and like you can't do anything. And I don't believe that art is going to change the world, but I do believe that it can give people a wonderful place to connect to each other and feel free from those things for a while. And like running a show for me is that, is it's like let's all like have a few hours where we get together in a room and like we scream our guts out at each other and like go nuts and dance around and get outside of ourselves, and don't worry if we look bad in the picture, and don't worry if we embarrass ourselves a little, and just like have this freedom to express ourselves and wear whatever outfit you want, and go crazy and look weird, and or look beautiful or beautifully weird, and like, oh, you just all like just do whatever, and like and have this sense that like, okay, we don't have to worry about all that right now. And that's, I find so much catharsis in that, and it has become uh such an important release valve for me, for like pressure, for just that feeling of like tension and being overwhelmed by things, that it's like, God, like I love doing it. It's become such a lifeline for me. I've been very, very lucky and humbled to have people that come to a lot of shows I do, and have had conversations with me about like, I've really needed this, or like I've needed like to go to an event like this. And I feel like running shows, running events, I'm always hearing somebody talking to someone else or talking to me about, I really needed to do something like this. And it's like the last New York show I did, I had a few people in my head. I'm like, New York, it's like you can go do anything all the time. Like you can't possibly feel like isolated there if you know people. And it's like bullshit. It's one of the most isolating places if you're feeling overwhelmed, because it's an overwhelming place. And I've had people like after the last show there talk to me about like, I really needed to do this. Like I had a friend be like, this is my first time I've gone out to anything in like months. They were
Whoa.
like, I've just been going to work and home and like just been feeling so overwhelmed. And they were like, I saw so many people I haven't seen in a long time, and this meant the world. And it's like, that's such an incredible feeling. Like that is like, I love that, knowing that just like, oh yeah, because like me and some friends and people I admire, like their music, like we all were just like, let's go make noise in a room together for 5 hours. And
Whoa.
then people can have those connections and experiences. It's like, it started for me as a way of getting something out that I needed to. I
Sure.
had this feeling of like, I need to let these emotions out in some way, and I need to connect to people. And I felt very isolated, and I was very isolated. And it was just like a very, like, almost desperate impulse of like, I need to find a way to go express myself and feel honest and feel vulnerable in front of people and not feel rejected because of it, and
Yeah.
feel like it's an acceptable thing, and feel like I can just get all this out and connect to people and meet people who maybe understand how I feel.
Yeah.
And that's what performing really became. And then starting to have other people say that they're having the same experience because of shows that I'm putting together, that gave me that feeling of like, oh wow, it went from being like an almost self-serving thing, and not in a negative way, but just like it was like a self, like it was like a survival
It's a
skill
therapy
almost.
moment, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I was like, I needed to do it for myself. And then it became, oh wow, like I'm also giving other people the exact same feeling. And that's like, I don't want to sound self-important. Like it's
No, no.
very it's just, I think
For me.
that is like the magic of like art and music and performance. And I think it's why it's so important to like keep doing shows and going to things and creating events, because I think there is an increasingly claustrophobic feeling in the world, and
Tell me about the impact. Did COVID have a huge impact on you? Because I know for me, it was like, it was a good time to sit down and work on music, but when you're not out and about, kind of getting that show fix out of meeting people and being around people, it could be it has an
yeah.
impact on you. Did it have one on you?
So yeah, that's a great question. I think I was in an interesting or unique boat compared to some people, because I was already kind of isolated for a bit,
Mm.
where I had like lost a job and hadn't been going out a whole lot and lived far away from everyone I knew, and like just was like kind of, I was in a place with a lot of friendships and relationships where it was like very crossroads kind of moment already, where it was like, uh just feeling that sense that like we're all drifting apart in different directions, and I was kind of feeling very aimless and unsure of like what I was gonna do, where I was gonna go. And I was also like having a real like I was already dealing with like so much mental illness stuff and like just going crazy. It was, I mean, 2021 is when like I finally like got hospitalized and then like started going to therapy and stuff. So like, 2020 was like kind of all right. Like it was a good few years there of like it was funny where I would have a phase where I was like, oh yeah, like the last like 6 months I've been kind of going through it, and then I realized I've been saying that for like 3 years. Like like
Yes.
there's I've been in going through it like
Oh yeah.
perpetually. Like it really does accumulate. But so like for me, it was almost like I had a strange thing where I had already been dealing with all this sense of isolation and detachment, and like suddenly it felt like everyone else was expressing that feeling. So I oddly felt a little less alone through that, where it was like I could just talk to people about those feelings and not have it seem confusing or unusual, where like people would just hear it and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, me too." And it's like, "Okay, well, I've been feeling that way for a longer time."
Yeah.
But it was like I oddly felt connected. Like I've always had a lot of like long distance friends and friends online and whatnot.
Mhm.
And that was a period where everybody kind of started doing that a lot.
Yeah.
People had friends, nearby become that. And I mean, Florida too was probably not the best state when it came to handling all. Maybe not the greatest state as far as like yeah, like there were a lot of people going out all the time anyway. Like I had a friend who was like, "Oh yeah, I've been like really worried about all of this." And then like 3 months in, he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm going out. I don't care anymore." It was just like, and that was everybody. It was like there was a lot of like, "Ah, who cares? Everything's open. Why not?" Like, and it's like that was brutal, but like I definitely was taking it more seriously than some people. And I was waiting to like be able to get vaccinated to like go do stuff on the more regular basis.
Mhm.
But and then I remember that when you talk about like drugs and stuff, I remember talking to a girl who was like, I was like, oh yeah, because it was right when the vaccine had just been coming out, and I had gotten vaccinated, and it was just like something you talk to people about. Oh yeah, have you gotten your shot yet? Are you gonna go? And it was like I remember asking this girl that I knew, like, oh yeah, are you like, did you already do it? And she went, I don't really know what's in it, and it was like, you told me you smoked crack last weekend.
Yeah, I've met a lot of
Like,
people like
like
that.
now you're concerned about
Right. What's in it? Right. Oh yeah.
you none of like I knew so many people that were very suddenly concerned about what went in their bodies, and it was like you were not living that kind of life. Like that's I don't think so. Like that was wild. So, but yeah, so I think I had an I know that was kind of all over the place, but that was an all over the place time period too. That was like I think everybody kind of had a weird phase. I mean, like I remember loving that Radiohead was posting tons of like pro shots all of a sudden. That was awesome. That
That's
was
great.
that was one silver lining. That was pretty cool. Like yeah, there was a lot of I remember really enjoying how many artists were doing cool things to like connect to people from a distance.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I love like Ben Gibbard from like Death Cab and Post. He did all these amazing like live streams like from his like
I love
bedroom.
those. Yeah, for sure.
Those were amazing. Like things like that. Like there was a lot. I mean, obviously this was a horrible period of time in the world, and a lot of people died. And I don't want to be like, oh hey, we got some cool shows out of it. But like it is like I definitely on a personal level had that feeling though of like it made me feel more close to art.
Yeah.
Like it made me feel even more committed to this idea that like oh this is the thing that I love and care about, because it felt like everyone was really like connecting to it on that deeper level, and that's something that I felt like there were people I knew who sometimes were less passionate about all of that suddenly really really were getting invested in it. And I think it was a time period that really uh reinforced how important like that connection through artistic expression is for people. And yeah, like not going to shows and stuff, that definitely sucked. And I think it's weird because on the one hand, I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and I've noticed it, which is that at big shows post-COVID, and I know that that's like a term that people get mad at. I just mean in terms of like cult, as far as like,
No, I get it.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, of
Back
course.
when things were locked down versus now, like
Yep.
obviously it still exists, but like
Yep.
I love everyone I know in the last 6 months is like, I've been so sick. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. It's like, yeah, I don't know either. I don't know why we're all getting really
We all
sick
got the
every
flu.
winter.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we all have the flu and it's worse than ever. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, but
Gee, I wonder. Right. Yeah.
why am I out of breath all the time? It's just like, yeah, but what a mystery. But no, I do remember I totally lost my place. Never mind.
Yeah, being like post COVID and going to
Oh
shows
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Shows like sometimes the audience etiquette at like big shows is garbage now. Like
Mhm.
really bad. Like I think there's a lot of like arena shows and things like that. It's terrible. I don't I've skipped out on seeing some like really really big tours from artists I like where like MCR is doing like stadiums now and it's just like I don't want to see that band in a stadium. And I also feel I've seen so many nightmare stories about like crowds being terrible in them.
Oh my
And it's
God.
just like, yeah, like I think you have a lot of people that never went to shows before that, and you have a lot of younger people. But then you have a lot of older people that I think there has definitely been a shift in terms of like the way people behave in gatherings is a lot less a lot less I don't want to say cultured, but there's definitely a loss of etiquette, I guess. Like
Yeah, I think
there's
so too.
been
Yeah.
a shift in that
Mhm.
and that's really sucked for like those things. Whereas I feel like at smaller shows I've seen people get more like more respectful in a way. It's almost like the more people there are, the more people start to feel invisible and then they feel like they can be an asshole.
Oh yeah.
But I that's why I don't play Coachella.
No, I get that.
That's
And it,
why.
yeah.
That's why I'm not playing. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that side. They call
Right.
me and I tell them, nah, I'm good. That's the only reason.
Nah, it's another email I won't answer. It's like,
It's
listen,
just a
guys,
personal choice.
listen. um,
I met a guy, I met an old man at a show of mine recently. That it doesn't go anywhere weird,
no, you're good.
but that's just a strange start. But
Met an old
no, I
man
met this
once.
old,
Yeah.
yeah, I met this older man, and he just was like, "Oh, you're like running a show," and it was like we were still getting things set up and whatnot, and it's at a place that like has like a cafe attached, so like during the day people, so he's hanging out and he's like he just wants to talk to everybody, and I'm doing shows, I'm not there to not talk, like I'm gonna chat with everyone. I love talking to people, as you've noticed. I love meeting new people. Like it's part of the fun of shows.
Oh,
It's
it's
a
great.
great. It's like it's a cheat code to like make a bunch of friends, meet a bunch of people really quickly.
100%. Yeah.
It breaks the ice. You don't have the awkward introducing yourself. It's like, oh yeah, like I'm doing a show. Now you get to talk. Like all that's gone. You're not approaching strangers anymore. You're all there for a reason. But anyway, I digress. This guy starts going on and on about like being a musician and touring and stuff. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. And he's like, yeah, I do like bluegrass. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's such a different world to me. And then he's like, yeah, Johnny Depp's band wanted my band to open for him in Vegas next month, but we couldn't do it. And I was like, oh, really? Cool. And I was like, I didn't think that was a thing anymore. Not I never paid a whole lot of attention to
Right.
Johnny Depp's band,
Yeah.
but I had a feeling, and I like turned around and I like looked up on my phone and it was like they haven't done anything in like a decade. There is no Vegas show next month. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
like that's
There's some.
such a weird lie,
It
such
is.
a weird thing to make up. Like not even a cool band to lie about.
Right. And I think there's people who kind of have that where they live in the dream of what was and what they can make up in their head instead of just going out there and going, let's just.
Exactly. Yeah. That I'm still like amused by that though because that is like what a lame band to make up almost playing with. Like pick something cool.
Right.
Like like I don't know. That's just insane. That's being like, "Oh yeah, like I was going to open for like Queensryche next month but couldn't make it." Like
Right.
what are you talking about?
We
Why
live in the
like
information age. You know we can look some of this shit up, right? Like it's
and
not
also
like,
why do you think that's the band that's going to impress me?
oh, Johnny Depp. Okay. Yeah, like, all right. Especially
Yeah,
his band. It's just like really like
yeah, his band. It's like, yeah, that's what he's known for.
right.
Just amazing. Yeah,
Oh
that
gosh.
honestly, that's part of the fun of doing shows sometimes is meeting really, really strange
Oh,
people
so many
that
weirdos out there. Yeah.
will tell you the weirdest stories that you know aren't real.
Right.
I love that. I get a
Mhm.
lot out of it. I really do. I I I'm fascinated with bizarre shit that people will just like they're like desperate to tell you. I
Yeah.
love it. It can be so interesting. That guy, God bless him. I don't know what he's doing. He's not opening for Johnny Depp's band. I know that.
Yeah.
Wherever he is.
That's funny. Do you think Florida had an impact on you as a musician and as someone who songwriting experience? Do you think it would have been different whether you lived in New York or in LA?
That's an awesome question. And absolutely. I don't think I was born and raised here, and I think it's impossible to be 100% from a place and not have it have some degree of influence.
Oh yeah.
And then when I think about like going to shows and meeting people that pushed me to make music. And like, again, my friend Julian from Lavola, like, he really encouraged me and was huge. And like, I would have never met these people. We met at like a Nine Inch Nails show in West Palm on a whim. And like, then found out that he was doing all these gigs in Orlando. And I started going and like, we became really good friends. And like, and now anytime he does a show, I'm there if I can be there. And it's like I literally the last gig this a couple months ago, like I had to get my car towed because it wouldn't start, and then I like just like stayed in town anyway to like go to the show. I was like, fuck it, like just like I'll do whatever to go. And it's like people like that. There's so many people that motivated me to like work on things that just because of geography I would have never met. So I think it would have been a different conversation already if like, well, if I needed that encouragement, it would have been coming from another place. Maybe I would have never had it. But also on an identity level, like I think being like a queer person and a trans person in Florida in particular led to me having a really different experience of all of that than some people do. And there's a lot more and I mean there's bigotry everywhere, and I have friends that are from places like Philly that are like I get followed by strangers sometimes and I'm really scared. Like you never like I don't want to act like
No, no.
nowhere has problems, but like especially in Florida in the past 10 years of like um radicalization against trans people in like a political way, and like that becoming like the go-to thing to rile people up over while you don't fix any of their problems like but just make them mad at a group of a minority that they've probably never met or don't know, like so you can just that's why you can't afford groceries, like sure. But me using the bathroom is more important.
It's crazy.
Like that, like I think having that though, like having that like real intensified like scrutiny and sense of stress and fear of all of that. I think all of that growing up around like rural Florida, I grew up surrounded by a lot of really, really vocal bigotry that was just completely socially acceptable and like treated as like just normal, and like hearing lots and lots and lots of slurs growing up and hearing lots of really hateful stuff. And then like coming of age and like discovering myself more and still hearing a lot of that, and like going through places where like you're surrounded by like MAGA flags in front of every house and on every truck, and it's just like you just know right away. It's like, damn, I like to think I can talk to anybody, and
Yeah.
I try to like talk to anyone and like find common ground, and yet like, damn, these people don't know me at all, and they think that I'm like some crazy interdimensional satanic creep that's like alter like Alex Jones level, like altering my DNA, like doing like you're like, okay, like it's insane. Like it's wild to know that like these people have such a preconceived notion of who I am despite knowing nothing about me. And you could say I'm doing the same, but I'm not announcing my beliefs the way they are, so I don't know. But um and anyway, like yeah, I think that has had a huge impact on a lot of my at a show I just did a few weeks ago. I got asked by somebody after, they were like hey Veronica, I was like, yeah, and they were like, you think you could win in a fight if you needed to? And I was like, I've never been asked to this after a show before. I was like, I don't know. I was
Right.
like, I had just gotten done performing, and they were like, you just seem like you've got a lot of rage bottled up. Because because I was like running around screaming and stuff. And otherwise, I'm pretty chill.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I do think there's a lot of like a lot of the intense aggressive nature to a lot of my music I think maybe is informed from having a lot of repression and a lot of sense of having to be like hidden or having to be like on guard all the time. Like I think Florida's had a big impact on that, but also in a positive way. I think that there's a lot of great like music scenes in Florida, and like Orlando in particular has a very vibrant queer community and very vibrant amount of like queer culture. You know, the absolutely horrific like Pulse shooting happened there, and I think that made it a much more galvanized community as far as like fuck this, like we're not gonna let people like push against us. You know, like there's a much more vocal, like intense representation there.
Mhm.
And I love that. And I think having that bubble of sanity in the middle of so much crazy shit and like 20 miles any direction, like it's kind of awesome though. Like it's kind of like that's very important and like that's important for me. And I think that that like gave me a sense of like really like galvanizing my identity and making myself have that more intense persona or mindset of, you know, I'm going to be very loud in my existence and how I perform and how I present my music and how I am as an artist. And I think maybe if I was from somewhere where there had just been like a, oh, that's all cool, don't worry about it attitude, maybe I would have still had a lot of those feelings, or maybe it would have gone in a totally different direction. I don't know. That's interesting to think about.
I know it's crazy. What kind of impact do you want your music to have on people, and especially even your
Um,
fans or even new listeners?
I would say that I hope that you have a genuine emotional reaction and that you feel less alone in some way. That there's something that I'm expressing that you can connect to.
Mhm.
Because I think that that's what art has always been about for me. And the things that I love have always done that for me. And I would hope that I'm able to do that for somebody else. And you know, even if the genuine emotional reaction is I don't like this, like at least that's something.
Give me
The worst
something, right?
I think the worst thing that art can be is forgettable,
Mm.
or uh I think a shrug is the like the worst review you can give something.
I
I
think.
think that is the most damning sort of response to something. So that's my, but yeah, my biggest hope is that yeah, people feel connected to it and that it becomes their favorite music they've ever heard and they want to go to every show. And but no, like yeah, on a realistic level, like yeah, I hope that people feel like it resonates. And I want it to feel like songs ghosts can dance to is a phrase I used a lot in like early promo and I still will use. And I think that's a thing of like this idea of like you just it's I wanted to feel like you can move to it and have this sense of expression and freedom and have some fun with it, even though it is really like intense and depressing sometimes. I want it to not just I don't want to just be making music, and this is the difference between me and years ago now is I don't want to just be making music that bums you out. Like I want it to feel like you're getting some sort of connection and catharsis. And I guess catharsis would be the biggest uh thing I'm hoping people feel.
Yeah. And where do you hope to see Crimes I Didn't Commit in the next 5 to 10 years? Like,
Um, well, I already said that I won't play Coachella because of the crowd size. So
100% co-sign,
uh that's off the list.
co-sign. Yep.
I would say I want to do like a proper tour really badly. I'm hoping to do like just even like a mini like Florida tour because Florida is a state that people don't realize is like multiple states when you look at the routing of it. Like it's South Florida is very different from Central, very different from Northern, and there's a whole lot. But you could drive for like 4 hours and be like, fuck, I'm still in Florida. Like so
There.
it's you
Yep.
know one of those places. And I would love to do like a tour with some other artists. And I would really love to open for somebody on tour, things like that. Like that's my more immediate hopes. And I'm always working on new music, so I've already got like a lot of stuff that I'm working on. That's not gonna stop. Just I just want to be playing more shows and playing shows with more artists I really love. And yeah, hopefully properly touring would really that is my big like I think it's a like not crazy goal. Uh that's my reasonable expectation, I would say hope. Whereas like obviously you have like anybody who puts stuff out does have the fantasy of like I hope I wake up tomorrow and I suddenly have like 10 million followers and
Right, right. 100.
everybody's like you hope that happens, but I'm not like holding out. Especially in like the subculture that I exist in, I'm aware. I'm not, but like, I look at some of the artists you've interviewed, and I mean, like, I see people like Ghost Cop or Tears for the Dying or like Nux, who's amazing. I fucking love Nux. People like that, and it's like I want to play shows with these people. Like I want to get to play some shows with more artists I really love. I want to like tour with people that I really admire. Like that's something that I want to do. I want to like be able to. I feel like there's something to really be gained from mining a local scene and helping like build that up and connect to people. But I also really want to like I want to play more shows in places where I don't maybe know anyone.
Sure,
I
yeah.
think that'd be really exciting. I think you talk about feeling afraid. I think that'd be an interesting form of anxiety of
Yeah.
like, I don't know anyone here and this is how they're going to meet me. I think that'd be really fun.
And I think there is that excitement where it's a totally different state, and not
Mhm.
just that, but if there's bands that you look up to and you go, oh my God, if I can share the stage with that artist or,
Yeah.
whatever,
Oh,
there
yeah.
is that love and excitement and that energy that comes with it.
So if Cold Cave or if Nine Inch Nails need an opener, hit me up.
There you go. There you go. Especially Trent
DMs are open.
Reznor. Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? Man, I think we pretty much covered everything that
Yeah.
this was such a great conversation. I
Oh,
love
thank
it.
you.
So,
I hope I
um,
made any coherent sense at some point.
no,
I
it
feel
was great.
okay. I
Yeah.
do. I know I can really go.
No,
So
this was
uh,
perfect.
awesome.
So,
Yeah, no, this was a pleasure. This is my first real this first ever interview
well,
actually. So
thank you so much for being on
yeah,
mine. Like, I
thank
mean,
you.
do you feel like way more comfortable now being on a podcast going, okay, it's just a little bit more laid
Oh,
back and more.
oh yeah, no, I would do this in a heartbeat, like again in a heartbeat, easily.
Cool.
Very, very cool time.
I'll spread the word.
Excited to I might not re-listen to it because that's a deeply uncomfortable
I'm
thing.
weird about that too. Don't worry.
Yeah, but no, I'm excited to bother everyone I know about it.
That's awesome.
That'll be
Well,
great.
Veronica,
Thank you.
thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Again, everybody check out Made to Fade. It's on Bandcamp. Be on the lookout if you got any shows coming up. Follow on social media. I'll go ahead and post everything in the description and then put everything on the socials that I need to do. So,
Thank you so much,
no
Justin.
problem. Thank you.